Hi, David again. And I try to keep my promises other than in the Mormon temple. I don't keep any of those. I'm done with those covenant and promises. But anyway, I promise the Mormons that every time they make a comment on my videos, crude, rude, or even kind, that hasn't happened yet, but I'm just trying to be open here, that I'm going to post them. I'm going to post them so that their bishops and their stake presidents can trace them down and have a court of love. A court of love. And so, you know what's really interesting? Each one of these that I've posted, the Mormons who have made comments, have never made another comment. They've never come back. And even the little finger up and down, well, this finger goes down when the Mormons do this. They haven't done that on like the last 15 videos. They've disappeared. But there's always a black sheep. Okay, here he is. Here he is. Let me give you his name here so his bishop can find him. It's capital Pilottim 1979. Capital Pilottim 1979. Okay, now this isn't really rude or crude, and I appreciate that. And I'm going to expand a little bit on what he says here because, in some ways, he's a little bit right, and I just wanted to clarify what I was saying. So, if I find that I've made a mistake, I'm going to say I made a mistake. This is not so much of a mistake as a misunderstanding. Here's what he said, capital wow, W-O wow. This is nothing but pure lies. Word of wisdom is not an excommunicatable offense. Disfellowship and shunning is not a practice in the LDS Church. Wow, such lies. Now, he has a right to his opinion. He's a Mormon and he sees my videos as lies, and that's okay. This is a free country. I know many of you that are looking at us from around the world, you're not living in free countries. You might even get in trouble looking at these videos in some of these dictatorships and other areas of the world that are on my demographics. Let me explain better that he is not totally right on this. Okay, years ago, he wasn't even right then, but I respect what he says. He's been kind. Well, to me, it's kind. I'm bipolar. He didn't do one of these and stomp and bullshit and asshole. He didn't go through that. Now, that's usually what the Mormons do. This guy, he still has one foot in reality, but he needs the other foot in education. So let me just kind of clarify. This is nothing but pure lies. Word of wisdom is not an excommunicatable offense. Okay, now, 15 or 20 years ago in the Mormon church, that would have been a true statement. That would have been true. Because back in those days, it had to be, basically sexual sin, screwing somebody else. It had to be something outrageous, a felony or a conviction or a murder. So he was right 15, 20 years ago, okay? Now, what the Mormon church has done now as an excommunicatable offense, I don't think from what he's saying here that he knows, and maybe a lot of Mormons don't know, there is a new class of excommunicatable offenses. And it goes after the military example. Many things in the Mormon church have to do with like sergeants and stripes and saluting and bowing your head and saying yes. I don't think he knows there is a new category called behavior unbecoming. Now, I was never in the service. My era was Vietnam, and I had student deferments and father deferments. And Canadian. No, I didn't go to Canada, but wait a minute. I didn't go to Canada. Did I think about it? Anyway, behavior unbecoming means that if you're, now a bishop can't excommunicate an elder, someone who has the Melchizedek priesthood, they have to be excommunicated by the stake presidency and the high council. But the bishop, he has all kinds of power over women because they're second-class citizens. They don't deserve all of the attention of the high council. So the bishop and his two counselors can just throw a woman's ass out of the church whenever they want. There's no basic defense. There's no representation. You know, he just says, you know, you're out. Well, behavior unbecoming. Now, I think this gentleman would be right in this case. If you were a Mormon and you smoked, let's say you work construction and you smoked, and after construction you get a six-pack on Friday and come home and watch a baseball game, but you show up in church with your wife and your kids. Now, everybody knows, because the Holy Ghost tells them, plus the bishop does, and they rat on each other, whichever, that he doesn't live the word of wisdom. Well, as long as he's not publicly humiliating the Mormon church and he comes to church, then that can be a workable offense. They're going to work on him with cigarette patches and AA meetings and whatever. Now, he is not going to be excommunicated in those specific areas. So this gentleman is partially right. He's partially right. It's not an excommunicatable sin. Now, let's take a look at the broader perspective of this category of behavior unbecoming. If the bishop thinks that he's quiet and he doesn't cause any waves or problems, he's going to be acceptable in the congregation. He is not going to teach a class. He is not going to have a job in the church. I don't know if they would call him to be a home teacher these days or not. Probably not. There's just a lot of pressure these days that you are a perfect Mormon, or, you know, there's all kinds of punishments. He would probably be able to get up and bear his testimony. There might be some bishops that are real assholes, and I had one. Oh, God, I got to tell you this one. This is a long time ago. I can't even remember because I probably pulled so much shit. You know, I have a mental block. I was in a ward, and the bishop and I were talking, and there was some kind of... he heard a rumor or something, and he wanted to check it out, which he had a right to do. He called me in the office, and we determined that it was just a rumor. It was not true, and he was convinced of that. Well, I moved to a stake up by Oceano, California, there on the beach, and they were having a testimony meeting. I should have walked out of the church then. And so I'm being a faithful member, and I want my kids to know that Jesus has, you know, given me the burning in the butt, but it was supposed to be in the bosom. So I walk up during testimony meeting, and I stood up to the stand, and I was about to bear my test. And I was dressed. I had my suit on and my tie, and I looked the part. And as soon as I stood at the stand, the bishop of the new ward came up and he put his hand on my shoulder and he whispered to me, "We are going to kill you." No, he didn't whisper that. It was almost as bad as I says, "Brother David, we've been informed of some unusual behaviors and we would prefer that you not bear your testimony." In front of 300 people. And I go, "What?" So I just bowed my head like an idiot, and I walked off of that stage being humiliated. Well, he came to me a day or two later and said, "You know, we really made a very terrible mistake there by kicking you off the stand." And I said, "Yes, you did, but I forgive you because I know you guys are assholes, and I know that you're just sheep, and you can't make a decision." I didn't say that either. In those days, I just, "Well, that's okay, Bishop." You know, he just patted me on the back. So anyway, that's my personal experience. I got escorted off the stand, humiliated in front of my wife and children. And you know me, I'm bipolar. I have no friends. But the people were looking and pointing and say, "See, he's weird. That's why they kicked his ass off there." So anyway, the behavior unbecoming. Now, what's really interesting about this is that I'm giving these examples now that the A word of wisdom can be an excommunicatable offense. It didn't used to be, and this gentleman is speaking doctrine from 15 or 20 years ago, and he's correct. You could not get kicked out for that. But now that they've added in the behavior unbecoming, your ass could be grass. Now let me tell you how it could be, and the Mormon church is going to be the lawnmower, okay? Let's say that the man is smoking and has a few beers on the weekends, and suddenly there is a disaster, say, in his neighborhood. And CNN or Channel 5, which is the church news station, which is the public relations arm of the Mormon church, comes in, and he's sitting there with a cigarette in his mouth and a beer can in his hand, okay? And they will come up to him and say, well, it looks like the Mormons have all really pulled together. And if he says in public, yes, we have. We're concerned about our citizens here, and as Mormons, and our ward has really pulled together and has done a wonderful thing in the community. He's gone. He's become public. He has embarrassed the church, and his ass is grass, and the Mormon church is the lawnmower. So this gentleman is not totally correct. 15, 20 years ago, I would have to come on and apologize and say, well, you know, you're right. But if you go into the public as a Mormon and you embarrass the church in any way, that's going to become behavior unbecoming. You're out. You're out. They can excommunicate you for anything. For anything these days. It is not just the rules and regulations of 5 or 6 things that you can do. They can lump it all together and go, that's behavior unbecoming. You're out of here. And now I'm going to give you an example, because I don't want to lie, I don't want to exaggerate. I'm going to give you an example. My brother, he's a couple years younger than I am, and he went on a mission for the Mormon church, and he was in the Midwest somewhere, I can't remember, but it was the Midwest, and he was served honorably. He came home, he was married in a temple, and he was married 30 years to the same girl. Now, I've tried to rival that. I've been married at least 30 months to the same girl. Jeez, I'm such an ass. Anyway, they had 7 kids, and he's a little strange. He's also bipolar, but he doesn't break the law or do really far out things. And so his wife, after 30 years of marriage, reported him to the stake presidency for sexual deviance. So they called my brother in. Now, he had a temple recommend, and he went to the temple, and he was active in the Mormon church. He lived the word of wisdom. All the ducks were in a row. And the stake presidency brought him before the high council and said, basically, you're investigating, we're investigating you under the behavior unbecoming. You seem to want your wife to suck on your weenie, and she doesn't want to do that, and we think that that is behavior unbecoming a priesthood holder. If you asked every priesthood holder who, I don't want to say demanded, but seriously requested that particular behavior, there wouldn't be a Mormon church. There would be 200 people in the Mormon church, and they'd all be in the conference center in Salt Lake City, and they'd all be over 80, totally impotent. So anyway, they exed him. They exed his ass. And he's a returned missionary, and he had behavior in his marriage after 30 years of behavior unbecoming. Now, you know, I'm not going to side because I wasn't in the bedroom and I don't know. And as a counselor, you're very dangerous if you just listen to one side of the story, because both people have a story. Now, if he pulled out a shotgun and held it to his wife's head, this is a different story. I'm not going to agree, and he should be excommunicated. But I know that he doesn't, you know, after 30 years, why he would be using a shotgun or a rifle, I don't know. Now, my other question as a counselor, not that I would believe the story until I listened to the wife, but I would think to myself, after 30 years of being married to this guy, wouldn't that have been somewhat noticeable? in the early years or the early decades of the marriage? Well, it could be. So I want to give this guy the respect that he's not informed. The behavior unbecoming can have your ass out of there if the stake president or the high council thinks you have too much sex, or that your sex acts are not appropriate, or that you're smoking and you got a beer can in your hand and you talked about your ward, the 56th ward, and West Jordan or whatever. So if you the word of wisdom can be added to. Now, sometimes the specific sin may not be strong enough to get your ass out, but they can add 2 or 3 things together. Social services that showed up at your house, you're smoking, you're drinking, your wife says you're drunk on the weekends, you missed 2 or 3 meetings, and that's behavior unbecoming a Mormon. So the gentleman wrote in courteously, and I want his bishop to be able to have his name, and he can be traced down. And my question is, why the hell is he looking at my videos? That is an excommunicatable defense, because one of the questions the bishop is going to ask him in his temple interview is, do you have any knowledge or sympathy or associate with anyone who is not a member of the church and or is antagonistic towards the church? He's going to have to say yes. Why is he on this video? Why has he made a comment? Well, because he's stupid. He's doubting his own judgment, and he's looking for information, and he needed the Jesus points to say, well, look, Bishop, I know you caught my ass, but please don't throw me out, because I told this guy he was lying. I told the whole world he was lying. So basically, I should have Jesus points. So, I want to respond, and I want to be respectful when I respond. And now I want to hit the other comments that he's making here, because this is the way a Mormon thinks. Disfellowship / shunning is not a practice in the LDS church. Wow, such lies. Now, my guess as a counselor and a social worker, this guy's probably pretty young. He's probably about 26. Got off his mission, has a cute wife and 16 kids. And one of the things that I suspect is he has basically no experience in the church. All he has is just the brainwashing of a mission. Now, let me tell you something. For someone to say there is no disfellowshipping in the church, he is grossly incorrect. There's disfellowship all the time. If you're a good tithe payer, they're not as inclined to excommunicate you because they want that money. So when you're disfellowshipped, you can't take the sacrament, and you can't hold a job or teach, and you can't pray publicly. I had that once. I wasn't disfellowshipped, but this ward that I just told you about, as I remember, they called on me to pray. I just got up and prayed. It was in gospel doctrine, and I wasn't supposed to. But I did, and I wasn't struck down. So for him to say that there is no disfellowship, which I've never been in a court of love or disfellowship or put on probation. I did have my temple recommend requested by the stake president in Ventura County stake that he was going to take my temple recommend and hold it for a short period of time. There was going to be no court. Because I had photographed my ex-wife's vagina and blew it up at Kinko's in a 3x3 poster and sent it to her new husband, they thought that that was behavior unbecoming. I thought that was funny. But the bishop on the other end and the stake president, which I'm sure looked at the picture and go, oh my God, and then, then they passed it through, said, look how indecent this man is. Well, how indecent was she to have those pictures taken? And we knew it was her because she has a broken little finger right here, and her wedding band was on her vagina. So anyway, be that as it may, that this fellowshipping does happen on a fairly regular basis, and shunning is not a practice. Oh my gosh, and that's why I think he's so young. he doesn't have any experience in wisdom. In 30, 35, 40, you start to see some of this because of the doctrine of milk before meat. Well, he still has the baby bottle and milk in his mouth and maybe a pacifier or a binky. The disfellowship and shunning is bigger than disfellowship. If you're inactive or you drink or you smoke, there's a good chance your family is going to leave you. And when they do, the wife is going to take the kids, and basically the kids will not call you. They will not send you a Father's Day card. They will reject everything from you except child support. The kids will accept child support. Hey, there's nothing wrong with child support, but we don't have to talk to his ass. Well, honoring your parents so that your days may be long upon the earth. I've noticed that a lot of my kids have died in their 20s. So shunning is a very popular behavior in the Mormon church. It's very hurtful. And I've just learned these days that, if my life has no value to my friends or family, then I go like a lamb to the slaughter. So I just laugh. At first it was very, very hurtful. At first I thought, God, I raised these 12 kids. I didn't raise Rebecca. I raised 11 of them, and I did take care of Rebecca in her senior year. And I've done so many things for the kids, and yet they hate me. And that's okay, because their church teaches them to be that way. I don't really blame the kids as much as I blame their church. And when anybody puts a church over family members, that's a cult. I don't care if you're Mormon or you're Buddhist or whatever you are. If you are taught by your church to take your church organization and the leaders or the prophets over your family members, especially your dad or your mom, people have really made tremendous sacrifices for you. That is evil. That is, it's just, it's like a pile of crap. To me, it's one of the most evil things that children are taught and do. My one girl, Amy, I wasn't invited to her wedding. I wasn't invited to the birth of her first baby, which is about my 43rd grandchild. And I'll be a great-grandfather here in the next 5 or 6 months. So I'll probably just die right. Just, God, I'm a great-grandfather. Well, she got pregnant again, I hope by her husband. And now she has her second baby coming. I didn't even know about it. I was with her on the email for a while, and now I'm banned from her email because she doesn't like these videos. Her mom doesn't like me mentioning the 3-foot by 3-foot vagina, and the girls in the family tend to agree with her. The boys go, hey, we don't care, Dad. We know you're crazy. You do shit like that. Well, anyway, I want to respect this gentleman. He didn't call me an asshole. He didn't say, you bastard, like the other Mormons do. He was upfront, and he can call me a liar. I don't see that as just really, really negative. I see this as a puppy, and I'm not going to kick a puppy when it's down. But I am going to put his name up, and I'm going to scare the crap out of him, and he will not write back. Now, one Mormon has written back after I have disclosed their name on a public video and what they've said, and they're afraid that their bishops are going to trace them down, or their stake presidents, or the committee to strengthen the members who have access to computer, who's who and whatever. They don't write back, and I'm sure that many of them go close their YouTube account, and they're just humiliated. So I don't think he meant to humiliate me, but you know what? A cult doesn't run my life anymore. I'm not afraid. I can sit here and say, as long as it's the truth and it's not libelous or slanderous. I think slander is writing. I think libel is verbal. I don't have that fear. He does. And now he's probably going to just go apeshit when he sees his name now in my videos. So I wanted to be reasonably courteous, reasonably kind, and reasonably informative. And I'm willing to stand up and have my face here and say, these are the things that have happened to me. Let's see him stand up and say, I didn't do that for Jesus points. I just wanted to do that because he says stuff. And I just don't believe it. Well, let him tell his bishop that.